measures of sexual tendency. This is used in statistics. Oh my God, statistics. All right, I think I spelled that right. And what they are is the word central. And central means kind of where is the middle? Kind of talking about where is the middle. And when we do this, we have four vocabulary words that we use. Let me show you what they are. One vocabulary word we use, or one method, is called the mean. Mean is another word for average. And average is probably the most common. I think a lot of students know how to do this because in grade school, our teachers would help us figure out what our average is in our class. So what they'd say is, okay, if you want to know what your average is, then you add up all your test scores. Okay, let's just make some general test scores here. So let's say I had an 80 on one quiz, and then I had a 70 on one quiz. I had a 90 on one quiz, and then I had another 80 on the quiz. And say, okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to add those up. So we're going to get a sum. Okay, so 80 plus 8. Oh God, I better do this on the calculator. Hold on a second now, because I know me. Let me do this on the calculator. 80 plus 80 plus, let's keep going with that, plus 70 plus 90, let's see, 320. So we'd say, okay, then my sum is equal to 320. I'd say, okay, so your sum is 320. Now, in order to figure out what the average is, you take that sum and you divide it by how many numbers or how many quizzes you added. You'd say, well, there was 1 here, 2, 3, 4. So you divide by 4. So now I'm going to take that 320 and divide it by 4, and now I'm going to get a mean or average. So let's take that number, 320, and now let's divide that by 4. It means that our average scores was an 80. That's mean, okay? So this is the word that is most common. This one is not most common. So we have to kind of go with the test vocabulary, and their vocabulary is going to be the word mean. So mean means to add everything and divide by how many you added. That's what it is. They're not going to tell you how to do it. They're just going to assume that you understand how to calculate mean. Now, let's move to the next. Let me erase these. Okay. Let's talk about the next vocabulary word. The next vocabulary word is the word median. Now, the median is the actual middle number. Now, what that means is, say I give you a series of numbers. If I said, hey, what is the middle number? Well, I actually did something that was very helpful. What I did was I put these numbers in order. And you'd say, oh, so these numbers have to be ordered? And I'd say, yeah. Whatever series of numbers they give you, like for instance, let me highlight. Let's say they give me these series of numbers. See all these numbers here for grades for students? And they asked me to find the median. Well, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to order those numbers, because in order to find the middle, you need to know the order. The order has to be there. So another thing about listing these numbers, if there are multiples, like say in my list that I'm drawing down here, let's say I had 2 4s. They have to both be there. You can't just say, well, there was a 4 and that counts. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to order all the numbers. Now, once the order is there, now the middle can be picked, okay? Now, let's say I can easily see my middle right here, because I can say, well, you know what? That's not the middle. That's not the middle. That's not the middle. And that's not the middle. There's the middle. Now, this happens because I have an odd set of numbers. Now, what does odd set of numbers mean? It means that I have a set of number that is going to leave one alone. It's going to leave one all by itself. Remember, odd numbers cannot be divided by 2. There's always a remainder. So this is my leftover, which means I'm going to have a leftover. Let's just leave it like that. Now, with even sets, that's going to be a little bit different. So let me describe an even set, okay? Let me erase these. And again, I'm going to keep it simple. So I'm already going to order my numbers, except this time, I'm not going to do 5 numbers. I'm going to do 6 numbers because that would be an even set of numbers. Now, let me go ahead and show you this. I'm going to give, and I'm using different numbers this time, okay? So up here, I have 6 numbers. It's an even set. And what I'm going to do with this even set is I'm going to try to find the median. Now, watch what happens with an even set of numbers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take away this one and say, no, it's not that one. But then I also take away the furthest one, right? And say, okay, let me take away this one. I'm going to take away this one. Now, look at what's happening here. The middle. Where's the middle number? Well, you can't have 2 numbers be the middle. That's not the definition of what middle means. You can't have 2 middles. So you'd say, well, Baron, there's 2 numbers here. They both can't be the middle. And I'd say, you're right. The middle is actually located between the 2 numbers. And you'd say, what do you mean? Like, the middle is the difference, or what's between 30 and 40. So it's actually the distance between 30 and 40. Whatever the distance is between 30 and 40, that's the middle. And say, okay, well, how do you calculate it? Well, one of the easiest ways to calculate the middle when you have an even set like this is to do the mean. So it means, what do you mean do the mean? I'm like, well, what you can do is you can take the 30 and add it to the 40, get an answer, and then divide that number by how many numbers are here. And you'd say, so you mean 30 plus 40 means 70? And I'd say, yeah, 70. Now take 70 and do what? Divide it by 2. And if I take 70 and divide it by 2, that's going to leave a number that's right there in the middle. Let's do that real quick and see what you mean. I think some people are already starting to figure out what that number is. And it makes sense. Look, 70 divided by 2, 35. Isn't the number 35 right between the number 30 and 40? And say, oh, yeah, it sure is. And say, well, Baron, if I can figure out this in my mind, do I need to do this? And I'd say, no, you don't have to do that. If you can think and say, well, you know what, I have a 30 and I have a 40, the between them is the number 35. And if you can do that, you don't need to do this fancy thing down here. Now, that's a lot of times it's because this is a whole number. 30 and 40 are whole numbers, and it leaves the difference, the number 10. Now, maybe you might have to do the average thing if you don't have such a nice number to deal with. All right, let's try with another one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move from the median, and we're going to move to another idea. And the other idea is mode. This one's not too terrible to understand. Mode means the number that shows up the most. So what it means is when you have a data set, if a number in particular is showing up more often than others, that's the mode. Hey, let's take a look at that highlighted set of numbers up here. What I want us to do is take a look at things and say, hey, do you see a number just by glancing around that is showing up a little more often than others? Take a look. You know what? I see an 88. Don't you see another 88? Oh, yeah, I see another one there. Don't you see another? Oh my God, there's three 88s. And it's like, hey, are there any other numbers up there that are showing up more than 2 times or 3 times, like the number 88? And hopefully you can say, no, I don't see any other numbers showing up more often than 88. So that's a mode. A mode says that this number shows up more often than any other number listed. So your mode, you would say, is 88. That's my mode because it shows up the most. That's pretty simple. Now, let's do range. Now, range is actually a vocabulary word, and it says this. It wants to know the distance between the lowest number to the highest number. It wants to know that distance, that range, how far are they apart. So what this one means is that you need to find the highest number given and the lowest number given. So let's use that same data set and let's see if we can find that highest number. Go ahead and glance around. I see a 92. I think that would be my highest one. Do y'all see a lowest one up there? Let's see, I see a 56, a 44. Is it 44? Oh, I see a 42. Okay. I think 42 is actually going to be the lowest number. So what we do is we have our two numbers. Our highest number was 92. Our lowest number was 42. And what we're going to do is we're going to find that distance between those two. And that's difference. And difference is subtraction. So we're going to take 92 and subtract 42 to figure out that difference. And I think that's actually 40. Let's do the math because I don't trust myself. And trying to do these videos and think is quite difficult sometimes. So the difference is actually 50. That would be the range. Okay. Now, one of the rules that some instructors teach is, hey, if you're going to be solving for measures of sexual tendency, which means either median, mode, median, mode, or range, what you should do in any given data set, the first thing that you should do is go ahead and align it, order it. Go ahead and put it in order, either from small to large, large to small, does not matter. Put the data set in order. And then it would make it easier to calculate a median, a mode, and a range. It's really going to have no effect on the median or the mean because mean doesn't care. But the other three, it would. So they give that advice to their students. And you should try it too if you need to.